This is the dream that I just had. I walked up to this house. It was a little bit elevated where I had to climb some steps. I knocked at the door. A person answered the door. And you know how houses, there can be a staircase dead center, and then there's room to the left and a room to the right. And then you go through those rooms, and then there's like a kitchen or the family room, or the rest of the house is behind the staircase, so to speak. So the person opens the door, and I walk in, and the staircase is right there, and I go to the room on the left. There were quite a few people in the house, and so we are talking and very concerned. And the group was giving ideas back and forth, and what we were talking about was how to give messages and get messages out. And there was the conversation was, well, how did they used to do it? How did they do it? And meaning people years ago that had to get messages out. So as the conversation goes on, one person says, well, what about this? And they have a piece of a tree. You know how you can slice small rims, so to speak, circles off the tree? I know we did it a few years back for one of our daughter's wedding. We took a tree of the farm and cut little pieces, and those were centerpieces. It was sort of like that. It was like the size of a record, a 33 record, for those that would know what that is. Pretty good size. And someone would say, well, we could stick it here in that little circle. And then another person said, well, we could put it in a pencil. And so everybody was trying to figure out a way to get a message out. So then I decide to leave. So I go back through the room, and then I go to the front door. But then it was no longer a house that I thought. It actually was, like the movies set back in time, the war movies. They had prisoners of war, and they were sort of up on stilts, and they were these shacks, but they couldn't get out. And that's what it was. So I try to get out, and I realize I see all the mud and the dirt outside, and there's no way for me to get out because it's all wired. So I turn back and realize I have to come back in. And then that's when I see the clothing and what we were all wearing. We were very disheveled, not good quality clothing, dirty. Some were sort of in striped clothes. Others were just in total, just obvious, very worn and dirty clothing. Then all of a sudden, these people came in, and they were in sort of suits, but it's hard to explain other than they didn't look like the rest of us. They were in authority. They came and they grabbed me. I was still back in that room to the left of the staircase that I had walked back into, sort of in disbelief, realizing that really I couldn't leave. None of us could. So they grabbed me, and they had in their hand a syringe, but it was huge, more like, those cookie dough tubes you can put cookie dough in, and then you have the little disc at the end and put little different shapes on a cookie sheet. It was very sort of fat and oversized, and it was clear. And the needle was extremely large and very long. So the whole syringe and needle was much bigger than a little small syringe. So they have that in their hand. The person had it in their left hand, and they were grabbing me, and I was realizing that they had this needle. And so they started pulling me and pulling me, and then finally they got a hold of me where I could not get my arm away from them. There was 3 or 4 of them wrestling me, and they had my arm completely pinned down on a table. Then the syringe is right in front of my view. And I started right then, I started shouting, I plead the blood of Jesus. I plead the blood of Jesus. I plead the blood of Jesus in my body. I plead the blood of Jesus. I plead the blood of Jesus over top of me. I plead the blood of Jesus on me. I plead the blood of Jesus. I plead the blood of Jesus. I plead the blood of Jesus. I kept shouting it and shouting it and shouting it and shouting it. And then they stuck the syringe in me, and then I kept shouting it so much that they turned and they squirted this liquid. It was sort of brownish, murkyish. It wasn't clear. All in my face. They were squirting it on me because I wouldn't shut up. And that was the way of trying to get me to shut up. And so it got in my eyes, it got in my mouth, it was on my face, and I continued to shout it because I realized I had no choice. They had me pinned down. And then I started feeling like was there, but I just couldn't talk, and I was just starting to fade, and I could feel it. And then I turn and they start dragging me by my feet, going out the back, that building. And I turn and I have in my hand and I hand it to the people sort of across to the other room as they're dragging me out the back. And I hand them this paper and it's a map. And the map has all these rectangle shapes, and it's the map of the graveyard. And I knew which grave they were taking me to. And I handed them that paper so they could come and get me. And I was taken out and drug out, and they had all of these graves sort of pre-cut, pre-stamped. They all look the same, and like a little row, like a road, which was a row of them, and they were all lined up, but they were extremely deep, even though they were very rectangle and pre-cut. And I knew that I was going to be buried alive. And that's why I handed the map. I was thrown into this rectangle pit box, pre-cut grave, but I was alive. I couldn't talk. I was trying to tell everyone I was alive. I was trying to fight what was put in me. And I continued and continued, even in my own spirit, to plead the blood of Jesus, the blood of the Lamb. And I woke up. Do not be deceived by what something may look like. Do not be deceived by who you are with. Do not be deceived by the circumstances. Do not be deceived and enticed to be invited to go somewhere. Listen to your spirit. Spend time on your knees. Great deception is already taking place, and grave, grave deception is coming to those who do not remain spiritually discerned. What may look like an enticing and an inviting invitation can take you to the pit. People that you are surrounded with, that you think are your friends, will betray you. Pray earnestly of the places that you place your feet. Pray earnestly about those in your inner circle that you are talking and communicating with. Pray earnestly about how, at some point, we will be communicating. 5 years ago, I said, the holy people will be speaking in code. Understand, persecution is coming. Understand, they want us eliminated.